Thank you very much, Randy. There are good Muslims all over the world. I was speaking at the University of Tehran as a Western Christian, and I was kissed on both sides of the cheek by more hospitable Persians than I could ever have imagined. Saeed, a young man from Amman, Jordan, lived in our home for a year and became a trusted friend of our family. Not long ago, I spent a week at Harvard, and there I had quality time with a doctor, a professor of clinical medicine and pediatrics at Al Faisal University in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And as I write, I'm in dialogue with a Muslim named Mohammed. So I don't have a we-they siege mentality against Islam. But what I am deeply concerned about is that by and large, today's preeminent opinion shapers are all too eagerly christening the Muslim worldview as a religion of peace and tolerance. Think about the words of Hillary Clinton.
The bottom line is that we are in a contest of ideas against an ideology of hate, and we have to win. Let's be clear, though. Islam is not our adversary. Muslims are peaceful and tolerant people and have nothing whatsoever to do with terrorism.
Now again, think of those words. Islam is not our adversary. Muslims are peaceful and tolerant people and have nothing, and here's the qualifier, whatsoever to do with terrorism. I was recently in a chapel with His Royal Highness Prince Turki Al Faisal of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. This is one of our allies in the Middle East. Try suggesting that the Quran should not guide our public policy in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. See how tolerant Islam is. Beheadings come immediately to mind. And this is not ISIL. Have you ever seen or heard of beheadings in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia? You can Google them. They'll turn your stomach. The image will last with you for a long period of time. Or think back less than 100 years to the end of Christianity in Asia Minor, to the burning of Smyrna, to the massacre of its Christian inhabitants. And remember that Asia Minor gave the world immortal cities like Philadelphia and Ephesus. The Turks were bent on eradicating all vestiges of Christianity. In one excruciating episode, the Muslim mob fell upon Metropolitan Chrysostomus. And though he had had ample opportunity to flee the mayhem, he felt a duty to stay with the flock. And so bloodthirsty Muslims dragged him through the streets. They gouged out his eyes. All the while they were kicking and beating him. And as he was being slaughtered, he raised his right hand and blessed the Muslim anarchists, saying, "Father, forgive them." In return, they cut off his right hand and hacked his body to pieces. And of course, eventually the whole city was burned. And the battleships in the harbor did nothing to help. Instead, they turned up the music so that the anguished cries would not be heard. We do well to recall history when we hear the syrupy sound bites regarding Muslim tolerance. It's a myth perfectly suited for a historically illiterate populace. Western elites are bent on tolerance for all, it seems, except for Christianity. And even after the Manhattan Massacre, the myth of Muslim tolerance survives. The famous Surah, the sword, leaves no room for doubt. Fight and slay the pagans wherever ye find them and seize them, it says, and abrogates the oft-quoted, "Let there be no compulsion in religion. In the modern world, Christians are squeamish about even using words like crusade in leading people to faith in Christ. There's no attempt to validate evil. Cultural icons, on the other hand, have no qualms whatsoever about airbrushing Islam. It's time that we remembered our history. I bring up Smyrna because I'm assuming that everyone listening to the sound of my voice knows about that horrific massacre less than 100 years ago. Not only that, but this is a biblical city. So the massacre is no doubt emblazoned upon your mind. But what has happened 100 years ago is not an anomaly. You follow the course of history from the days of Muhammad to the present, and you do not find Islam to be a tolerant and peaceful religion. How can you? Unless you turn a blind eye to history or even what's going on in the present. It's time we understood that cultural elites are all too happy to go to bed with Islam, because in many places the enemy is Christianity. They both detest every vestige of the Christian worldview and would love to see it eradicated. And I suppose the secularists have this unrealistic hope that once we get rid of every vestige of Christianity, as we have done in Eurabia, well, then maybe the Muslims will succumb to the lure of pornography and all the decadent practices in the West. Whatever their fantasies are, as Christians, we must not seize darkness, but stand in light. We must not simply curse what's going on, but be informed and build a lighthouse. The way that Muslims are changed is by the gospel. And believe me, having been in Muslim theocracies myself, I'm well aware of the fact that there's no great freedom to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ or to convert to Christianity. How someone can say that's tolerant in Saudi Arabia or Iran or Yemen, well, you can fill in the blanks, is simply beyond me. And we're looking at what's happening with ISIL and we're thinking that that's the main problem. No, the main problem is a migration without assimilation. The cobra swallowing its prey, as has been well said, with a long digestive system, but swallowing its prey nonetheless. It is incumbent upon every Christian to be as wise as a serpent, gentle as a dove, in an age in which people die for the skin of the truth stuffed with a lie, die because they are simply uninformed of real facts as they take place on the ground.